Why, hello everyone. Thank you to all the Wildcats and friends who are joining us today for our Cats in the Corner office. Today, this conversation is with President and CEO of Accella Performance Materials and U of A alum, Andy Harris. This event is brought to you by the UA Alumni Association's Alumni Career and Professional Development Lab. The Career Lab helps alumni find jobs, advance their careers, and build their professional networks. For more information, I hope you'll visit alumnicareerlab.com. You can also follow us today and every day on Twitter @HireACat. Today's conversation is being recorded and it will be archived on our website for members of the Alumni Association to access at any time. As we talk with Andy, I also want you to know questions are welcome and we hope you'll send us lots of them. It'll make for a very interesting conversation if we hear from you. Now, let's get started. Welcome to Cats in the Corner office, our online speaker series featuring highly accomplished University of Arizona alumni and distinguished faculty and staff members. I'm Melinda Burke and I'm so pleased to be here today. I'm president of the Alumni Association and really happy to introduce you to today's guest, Andy Harris. Andy holds an MBA in Marketing and Finance from the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business and a BS in Chemical Engineering from the University of Arizona. Andy has over 25 years of leadership experience in the fields of specialty chemicals, oil and gas, process instrumentation, and environmental equipment. He began his career in 1987 as a project engineer at Exxon and has since developed into a successful CEO who specializes in business growth and transformation through mergers and acquisitions with a special focus on corporate culture. We'll talk a lot more about that. His current firm, Accella Performance Materials, is a growth-oriented global specialty chemical company with annual revenues of approximately $450 million. On its way to over $1 billion in the next few years, Accella specializes in the manufacture of polyurethane systems and sustainable recycled rubber products for a wide variety of markets including construction, oil and gas, mining, athletic and sports surfaces, and automotive industries. With their products utilized in nearly all aspects of our daily lives, Accella recently provided the material for the USS Arizona Pearl Harbor Memorial outline on the U of A Mall. Under Andy's leadership, many companies have increased significant multiples in revenues and value. In just 4.5 years with Accella, their revenues increased 5 times, profit 7 times, which resulted in a strategic sale to the Carlyle companies for $670 million. Similarly, Andy's previous company, Surgis, increased their revenue 4 times over 5 years and sold at approximately 9 times earnings, providing stakeholders an incredible return. During his time at the U of A, Andy has been involved in many activities. He'll be telling us more about all of his clubs and organizations. And I'm just so honored to have Andy back on campus to talk with us today about his professional experiences and his life since the University of Arizona. So Andy, thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you, Melinda. It's awesome to be here. Great to see you.
Well, thank you. It's always nice to see you. Andy and I have known each other a long time, so it's especially nice for me to be able to sit here and get to know you a little bit more. So let's start with just a little bit about your company. Could you talk a little bit about your career?
Happy to. First, I want to say I'm just really honored to be part of this program and very grateful to the University of Arizona for its role in my life and my family's life. So a little bit about my work. I'm a CEO and president that's been hired in my last 2 roles by private equity, referred to as a hired gun. And in the last 2 roles, as you mentioned, had really nice growth curves with those companies. In my current company, Accella Performance Materials, we manufacture polyurethanes, and those are custom formulated for a wide variety of customers who make all kinds of different products that are used in our daily lives. Anything from skateboard wheels to bowling balls to rigid decorative trim, fake rocks, movie sets, and spray foam insulation that could be used in walls or ceilings. So polyurethanes can be used all over our life every day, and they make a big impact in our life. That's kind of a cool element about what we do. But back to my role as president and CEO, in the current company, we started that business, or we made our first acquisition about 5 years ago. It was an $80 million company, and set the vision to grow that to be a leader in the space of polyurethanes in North America. And we grew from 80 million to 430 million last year. And then resulted in the sale to Carlyle, which was awesome. And it really was kind of a win-win-win. Our employees won in that they're now in a great long-term home with Carlyle. And Carlyle is a leader in their space, construction materials, multi-billion-dollar organization. And they're going to help us get double or triple again in the next few years. That's awesome. Secondly, it was a win for our shareholders. They invested in us, and we provide them a good return in about 4.5 years, a really great return. And then finally, it's a win for Carlyle. They've got a great company, a great platform to move forward. And that's where my role came in. I was responsible for driving and charting the path for that growth. And a key part of that is setting the vision and kind of beginning with the end in mind. Where did we want to go? Who did we want to be? How are we going to get there? And why would we succeed? And working with our employees and team members to help answer those questions. And that's part of this element of culture, to engage our employees and our team members in that process and to buy into that. And then run the business on a day-to-day basis for, as we charted that growth over those years, there's a lot to do in just running the business on a day-to-day basis. Every day is different. There's all kinds of different challenges. But my key role was the vision, the plan, and helping to establish the culture. And I wore two hats. There was running the business day to day, and then there was what I would say, and still continues to be, acquisitions. Acquisitions are a really key part of how we did grow. We grew organically and through acquisition. We made 13 acquisitions in 4.5 years, so about 2 or 3 acquisitions a year. And that's a unique part of business. First of all, finding the acquisitions that make sense, getting those cultures to merge together, and there's some magic to that.
You did how many of those?
13.
Wow.
And
similar kinds of companies? Were they
all polyurethanes?
They were all
yeah, the common element was all polyurethanes, and bringing them together. But so you identify the companies. Is it a good fit culturally? Then, is the buyer willing to sell their business? Do they want to sell it? And convincing them that we're a great, or the seller, that we're a great buyer of the business. And then ultimately getting a deal that makes sense for both parties and getting the deal closed. So wearing those two hats is what my role largely has been and will continue to be. Running the business day to day, setting the culture, setting the vision, and then also still a strong acquisitive part of the business in doing deals. How do
you shape that culture? I mean, what to you is the culture, if you had to describe it?
And for me, it's very employee centric. Employees are our #1 asset, and a lot to do with trusting employees and empowering employees, and identifying and giving them the resources they need to be successful, and then kind of give them what they need and get out of their way.
That's awesome. So I do have to ask how you did the U of A Pearl Harbor outline. I mean, how did that happen?
Oh, well, the outline is actually a rubberized polyurethane surface, like a sport track, an athletic track. So when you're out on an athletic track, it's ground up rubber that's got a polyurethane binder in it that holds it all together. And we're a large player in that market in the United States, and so it's actually a red athletic surface that got laid down, and it'll last in the sun, and having water sprayed on it, and it's supposed to last for quite a long time.
It looks great. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your career path? I mean, how did you end up here? And you started at Exxon. Kind of trace that for us.
So I've worked in a wide range of companies, from Exxon being, at the time I joined, one of the largest in the world, #2 on the Fortune 100 list, to venture capital startups, very small venture capital startups, to privately held, small and middle market privately held companies. So I've gotten a wide range of experience in terms of different leadership styles, different sizes of companies, different cultures, and it's been kind of neat to put that all together. And I started in 1987 as a chemical engineer, and I got that job with Exxon because of the university. The university helped me get that job.
Is that right? Out of the department, or
Out of
did
the
you go through career services?
It was through the Department and Career Services,
okay.
and Exxon was recruiting on campus. So very grateful to the university for that.
Great.
That was my foundation. Learned pretty quickly that engineering wasn't really maybe what I was cut out to be, and went then into sales and marketing, and then middle management and general management, and ultimately executive leadership. So lots of companies, different sizes, different experiences, and a kind of a career path that started in engineering and then went through technical sales and marketing and ultimately into leadership.
That's awesome. So how is it that you ended up at the U of A? What was the biggest impact, or what had the biggest impact on where you decided to go to school?
Well, I grew up in Prescott, Arizona, just north of here, and both of my parents went to college. So I knew I was going to go to college. I didn't know where, and I had no idea where I was going to go, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was a percussionist in high school as well, and I had competed in a couple different state competitions and done pretty well. So I was given a music scholarship at the school up north in Tempe. At the same time, a friend of our family had a son who had just graduated in petroleum engineering and got a really good job, and they said, "Hey Andy, you're good in math and chemistry. Why don't you go be a chemical engineer?" And I didn't know what that was or what that meant. I looked at it and I found right away chemical engineering makes the highest salary of any undergrad graduate. So I was like, I'm in, and totally misdirected, the wrong reason. It's not a reason to go for anything, but I was driven.
You were being very pragmatic about it,
yeah,
right?
I was driven by money, and so I decided I was going to do that, and then I was able to also get an academic scholarship in the state schools. My family was not able to afford college, so the scholarship was really important to me. And when I looked at the different universities, University of Arizona was the one that shined to me and had a great reputation in engineering then and still does today, and it was a fantastic decision.
So when you got here, what kinds of activities did you get involved with? Was the extracurricular experience important to your success, do you think?
When I first got here, it wasn't. I would say the first year or two was all about engineering and trying to survive the first year of engineering courses. But then ultimately I did learn that getting involved was really important. So I got involved with Theta Tau, the engineering fraternity. I was involved with Tau Beta Pi, the engineering honorary. I was selected and honored to be on the mortar board honorary my senior year, and I just immersed myself in campus. So first 2 years.
Did you live on campus?
I never did.
You
no,
never
I lived
did.
off campus.
Okay.
So, but I did learn that immersion on campus and getting involved ultimately led to a lot of where I am today. And you look back and there's a lot of little threads that you can trace back to just simply getting involved.
Did you have any faculty or mentors or anybody on campus that was really influential?
I had a lot of really good professors that gave us some really good input in chemical engineering in terms of what the career was about and maybe places to work. There was one professor, Dr. Randolph, who had worked in the oil industry and was kind of influential in terms of guiding some of us there. I had another professor, Dr. Rem, who was my advisor. He was a really nuts and bolts kind of guy and called it like it was. It was really great interacting with him.
And then when you were here, what kind of early lessons, anything you can point to as an early lesson that may have put you on the right path or sort of taught you what it meant to be successful?
Yeah, I think that some of the lessons I had when we just touched on was definitely get involved, right? Be involved, and you never know where this involvement will lead you. And on campus, or when I got out of school and I started at Exxon, I started at Exxon in New Orleans. I didn't know a soul in New Orleans. I didn't know anyone in Exxon, and I went from Arizona to Orleans not knowing anybody. And just immersing myself into the community at Exxon, getting involved in those activities and events, getting involved in some local events in the New Orleans community
really
was a lot of fun. And taking some classes like I took a Dale Carnegie class, how to meet friends and influence people. My friends will tell me I didn't learn anything from that, but that was a really great early event. It kind of helped me lead to my ultimate success. And I think some of the other lessons I learned were to set goals and work to those on a daily basis. Success is not, to me, it's a byproduct. Mm-hmm. And originally, I thought success was being a president, being mm-hmm. a leader, making money. But it's how you get there, and I had no idea how to get there. And success is a byproduct of doing the right things for the right reasons, kind of finding your purpose, finding the meaning for why you're doing what you're doing. What's the meaning for why the company that you're involved with is doing what it's doing, and just doing things once again for the right reasons. And if you're disciplined, worked hard, take responsibility, success will happen as a byproduct. And it's kind of like making a putt or being a great sports champion. Many of them will tell you that they're not focusing on the putt or this, they're just focusing on the mechanics of
mm-hmm.
it, and all the discipline and all the training and all the hard work that got them there. You rely on that, and then sinking the putt is a byproduct of that.
There are no shortcuts.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts.
It sounds like
yeah.
You've worked very hard.
Yeah.
So I do have a question from one of our viewers,
okay.
asking more about your contract with the U of A. Did you go through, I mean, how did you secure that? That's a pretty awesome thing, to do the surface, to do the outline of the Pearl Harbor.
Oh, I
bid on it?
We donated it.
Oh,
so,
did you?
Yeah, that was a donation.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah, so
That's
when
awesome.
I learned that was happening, and I don't remember how I learned that the outline needed to be done in red, and then they said it's going to be a rubberized material. And
That's
I said, well,
awesome.
Is that a sport track? We do that, and said we'll be happy to donate it.
That is great.
Yeah.
Well, that is a great example of giving back. I know you have been a wonderful alum, but people wonder, what can I do? And there's so many different ways you can give back. That's a beautiful example. That's awesome. So as you were growing up, who were some of the individuals you looked up to in helping shape who you are today as a professional?
My parents, they played the biggest role, I think, in my life. We grew up in Prescott, kind of a lower middle class family. Weren't able to afford college, but I had 3 siblings. All of us were adopted, which was unique in that, and we were adopted at birth. Mm-hmm. So from day one, we had this special. My parents always said, "You're special because of that." There's this special love and kind of an unconditional love that was fantastic. So that had a big influence on us. My father was a probation officer, and he devoted his life to helping others and serving others who had made mistakes, poor decisions, wrong decisions, maybe got off the right track, to helping them getting back on the right track. And so I learned a lot from that, getting back about the focus on people and culture, and the belief in people. My dad believed in everybody, and he believed in us a lot, and learned a lot from that experience. He also fought in World War II and was in the Battle of the Bulge, was shot, and got a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star from that, which I'm proud of. But that was also why the USS Arizona Memorial was meaningful.
Meant a lot to you.
Meant a lot to me. And my mom was a homemaker, was a great kind of traditional mom, made our home very welcome to all of our friends, and just a very open, inviting place, and was also very, very service-oriented in serving our family and serving our friends and neighbors. So they were the 2 biggest influences in my life, and how I look at people and a belief in people, and having a service mentality. And then I would say most recently, my wife, Stephanie, you've met her.
I've met Stephanie. She's lovely.
She's fantastic,
yeah,
she has influenced me and made me the person that I am on an exponential basis.
Awesome. I hope
over
she's
my
watching.
career. Yeah.
That's very sweet. Well, that's great. So you then left the university. You did a stint at Exxon. When did you decide to go back and get your MBA, and what was that process?
Well, I was with Exxon in New Orleans for a few years, and then decided that engineering wasn't for me, and I went into sales at the lowest level of an organization and started selling specialty chemicals in the Los Angeles environment. So in oil refining and power companies. So fortunately, I got to move from New Orleans to Redondo Beach, California.
Yeah, not bad.
And was having a lot of fun doing that. But came up through sales, and while I was there, I decided to get my MBA and put myself through the MBA program, doing nights and weekends to get my MBA while I was working in Los Angeles.
Wow. And any advice for others looking to do an MBA?
I think as long as you think it's going to fit with your career path and where you want to go, it's a really great thing. I know a lot of people that have succeeded wildly without an MBA, and others, it really adds to who they are. I would encourage it if you can do it. It surely helped benefit me, and I learned a lot that I didn't understand about business. Early in my career goals were to make a lot of money, which was misdirected, and be a president or a leader of an organization. I've always been strongly achievement-oriented, but the MBA helped me start to put me on the track of, well, what does leadership really look like? How running a business really look like? And that helped me mature as that part of my career.
That's great. So speaking of advice, is there any advice that you might give to others, or maybe even some of the best career advice you've ever received?
Yeah, I would say that there's a few areas here. I've talked a little bit about this service mentality, and time again, I had a few different leaders that demonstrated that and showed that to me, that as a leader to serve others is a very important aspect, and that's a neat part of my career success and career advice. I would also say that networking is really, really big. You never know who you meet, where those doors can open, or what doors could open from that, and what contexts. You can't even imagine it. And then I would also say mentoring. Get a mentor, and a mentor is someone that you can confide in, and that can help you become better who you are, challenge you, help you chart what career should you go into, how do you be successful in your career. Maybe they have contacts and networks that can help you. So I have a unique, really the most pivotal point in my whole career came out of those three areas of career advice. And so I was vice president of sales for a company in Orange County, California, and there was a parent organization that had bought two small companies, and they wanted them to be merged together and then integrated into the parent organization. And I was hired as VP of sales of those two and marketing to bring those two companies together and bring them together and make that happen. So we worked hard to do that over 2 or 3 years and did a good job of doing it. And then they decided to take the sales and marketing function to their headquarters in the Midwest. So my job was eliminated, and I guess in a way, worked myself out of a job. And I didn't have a job, living in Orange County. Stephanie and I had just started our family, had 2 young daughters. And I'm like, I got to get a job, right? I'm focused on that. And then 2 of my really good friends from the University of Arizona, Mike Myers and Don Accella, said, Andy, we're going to Italy on a vacation with our wives, and you and Stephanie have to come. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. I don't have a job, and I've got to focus on that. And they said, no, you really need to come. Just take a little time off, and there's another couple that's going to be there that you'll really have a great time with, and so come. So Stephanie and I went, and this other couple, as it turns out, the husband was pretty well connected in the Midwest and in investments and business. And he got to know me and a little bit about my career and what I'd done. And we had a really good time with them. And then at the end of the vacation, they needed to leave early, 2 days early. And the airport was a 4-hour round trip away. And I said, I'll be happy to take you. I'll take you. So this kind of gets to this service mentality. I had no ulterior motive. I was just happy to take them. So they accepted. They said, okay, you can take us. So I took him to the airport, got to know him a little bit better. And out of that relationship, in those few 5 days, a week later, I had an interview for VP of Sales for a company that he was on the board of. And you would have never, ever thought that would have happened. Never would have happened. So I went through the interview there, and they offered me a job.
Wow.
And I, as much as I needed the job, and I was still money driven, and it would have been good money, I sensed there's not a cultural fit. There's something about this. I didn't necessarily believe in where the company, that company was going to go, and I turned it down. But in the interview process, I met another gentleman who was on the board, who had interviewed me, and he became a mentor. And he said, and I didn't know it at the time he became a mentor, but he said, I'm on the board of another company, and we need a CEO, and you would make a great CEO. How he saw that, how he thought about that,
That's awesome.
It's mind-blowing, but
he was right.
He was right, and so that was, I went from VP of Sales to out of work
to CEO.
To CEO.
Wow.
All through a service mentality, networking, and then I got a mentor. And that was the first time that I would say I really had a strong mentor, and he taught me a lot and guided me a lot in being a president and CEO. So a little bit of a long story there, but I hope it shows the value of networking, and you just don't know.
You just don't know, and you need to be open.
Yeah. And I'm also very grateful, because I know Don and Mike might be watching this. I'm grateful to them, and that's the network as well too, right? So.
Well, we're going to ask you more about that network in a second. I've got questions backing up over here. A question from one of our viewers on what is a day in the life of a CEO.
No day is the same. There's, I work a lot on culture, and that's getting out with our employees and our people. And so I travel a lot. I'm on a plane every single week. And we have 8 sites in the US, 1 in Europe, and 1 in China. So a lot of travel involved with that. I'm always working on refining our plan and reacting to what's happening out in markets, what's happening with our suppliers, key customers, dealing with employee issues, dealing with legal issues. It's just a wide gamut. Fortunately, I've got a great team, and I believe a lot in empowerment. So, and I trust our team to do what they do. And so, fortunately, we've got a really great team, a lot of great people that worry about a lot of the details. But from time to time, I get yanked in all the time. Yeah. Andy, we need a decision. Yeah. We need some guidance. What do we do? So it's no day's the same, and they're a lot of fun. They're challenging. And then you put the acquisition side of that, and it's like a sales pipeline. You've got a lot of companies you'd like to bring in to the organization that strategically you see make a fit. You have to build those relationships. You have to have that trust. And ultimately, kind of the timing is right, that the seller's willing to sell their business, and we can come to a deal that makes sense for both, and then make that deal happen.
Huh, wow. So how about work-life balance? Are you challenged by that?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, who isn't challenged by that?
We all are,
yeah.
and it doesn't probably matter.
How do you do that?
You have, in my opinion, I mean, I have to work at it. If I didn't work at work-life balance, I would be 80 hours a week all the time. And my wife and daughters are hitting me all the time. Hey, Dad, we got some stuff to do. But I do have to work at it, and part of it is family, and so a big focus on the family. And I have 2 daughters that were competitive dancers growing up, and so I spent a lot of time making sure my schedule fit to be at all their activities, all of their events, and being a dance dad. And that brought balance. It was kind of fun.
That's
all
great.
The other dance dads and the other families, we had a lot of fun doing that. I would also say that my strong Christian faith helps me be rooted in that. Some of those beliefs bring in, you got to have balance. It can't all be work. The U of A Alumni Association has given me some good balance with my work.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's great to be back on campus several times a year. The local events, the game watching events are fun.
And I love being on campus and the old relationships and new relationships. And then finally, I got involved with an organization which I'm grateful to be part of and was happy to be asked to be a part of, is Young Presidents Organization, YPO. It's a global organization that is committed to really balance of life, 3 different things: self, family, and business. And how do you be a better self? How do you be a better spouse and parent? And with those, also then how do you be a better business leader, and how does your business be better? And it's all about balance of life. So those are the key elements I've used. I have to work hard at it, and I fall off the balance of work-life balance track all the time, and then pick myself up and get back on it.
Well, that's awesome. So you mentioned the Alumni Association. I thank you for that. But I'm also curious just about your connection and your network through the U of A. The University of Arizona, it sounds like, has been part of your life since you graduated.
It has, and I've made a lot of really good friends. I've mentioned a couple of them earlier. And just once again, all these contexts that you meet, you never know in networking. And I would encourage, it's one of the lessons I learned. I didn't focus on networking when I came out of school, and it wasn't a priority for me. Looking back, I wished I had. I would say that Mike Myers and Don Accella, who are really good friends of mine, they're probably at the top of networking, and they've been great at it, and I learned a lot from them in doing that. And so my relationships through the University of Arizona and the Alumni Association have been really deep and meaningful. It's great to get to know you. Dr. Robbins, I've gotten to know him through that, he's something.
Yes, he is.
He's very, very special.
An amazing leader.
We are very blessed to have him. I think he'll prove to be one of the best presidents this university's ever seen. But that's been really fantastic, and I would also say just the concept that I got of mentoring out of that. When I came out of school, I'd never thought about mentoring. It wasn't until the second half of my career that I realized how important actively seeking a mentor, getting a mentor, and if you can get one, how blessed that is, how blessed you can be, and someone that you can confide in, that can help you figure it out, whether you're a student in school, how do I get through school, what classes to take, or once you're out, how would I start my career, what career should I do? I'm thinking about a career change, how do I go about that? I'm having issues with my boss. I'm not sure how to think about that. I wish I had a mentor back in those days that would say, I can share some things and some wisdom with you.
Where would you suggest young alums, young professionals find mentors?
Well, I think I would say seek it out. If someone's friends of their parents might be a good resource, someone in their church or some of the activities, I said, get involved in activities. You may just find somebody, this person could be good. I mean, I can learn something from them. I'm working, hopefully, to help develop a mentoring program here at the university that you and I have talked about. I think it would be great. It would be really good. And I'm very hopeful we'll make that happen here shortly. So am I.
We will.
Yeah, and so it's great if the institution that you're involved in can make it happen. A boss can be a mentor. There are some good bosses and not so good bosses, so I guess those are some of my ideas on mentoring.
Okay, great. What about success and failure? I mean, have those? Obviously, you've seen lots of success. Has failure been important in your life or a part of your life? Have you learned from that?
Well, I would say that I am where I am today largely because of failure. I mean, I lost my job. Right? That was a failure that got me to where I am now. So failures are the ones that have caused you to challenge yourself, and through failures, the thing I've learned the most is be very introspective. Why did that happen? Whether it's a failed project, whether it's a failed company, and take ownership and responsibility and be accountable to it as an employee or as an individual. And I think it's especially as important as leaders. For a leader to take, I'm responsible for our company didn't do well. and don't blame others, and then chart the course. What would you do different moving why? So I've learned the most through some of what I would say my failures or things that didn't turn out as expected. And then with successes, I would say when they happen, you got to celebrate them and share with others, and make sure the successes they're not about you, right? They're about the team.
They're about the team.
And there are some individuals and celebrate individual successes for sure, but definitely as a leader, that's a place where you don't want to, when there's a failure, you take full accountability and full responsibility. The failure is because I'm taking ownership for it. When there's a success, you don't really take ownership for it. I think it's better to give the team the recognition, because it's the team and the people that really made that happen. So that's one of the lessons I've learned.
Would you say that attitude is part of how you would develop a culture? That giving that kind of recognition to your team? Are there
Sure.
other things that you might suggest that would be important in building the kind of culture you would want as a leader?
Right. Yes, and the culture that I like, that has worked well for me and that I've evolved to, is one that is a big focus on employees is the number one asset. It's not our manufacturing plants, it's not the equipment we use, it's not the technology, it's the people. And it's the people at all levels that make that happen and make it work. So I'm a big believer that there's no one in any organization that's more or less important than anyone. We're all in it together, and we all have to do our job really, really well to succeed. And I'm also a believer, we've talked about this service mentality, but from a leadership perspective, kind of an upside down. I'm here to serve the organization, and our management team is here to serve the organization. They're not here to serve, the employees are not here to serve us. And so that's another big part that focuses on the employee, focuses on, and trust, right? And trust is a really key word, a key thing that I've learned from a couple different leaders along the way, really good leaders, that, and out of the gate, I will trust anyone right out of the gate, right? They don't have to earn my trust. And I think that's kind of an important element of culture. And what I've learned is that when people sense that, wow, right out of the gate, he trusts me, or our management team trusts me, and they're empowered to do their job, people will run with that and actually be energized and invigorated by that. And sure, there's the 1 out of 10 that will burn you or take advantage of the situation. But what I've learned is the 9 that run with it, and what you gain from that level of trust far outweighs the 1 that will.
They don't want to let you down.
Will burn you.
Right?
That's right. So I think that trust is a really key thing, and a focus on employees and empowering them and giving them what they need and getting out of their way.
So it is often said that change is one of the hardest things to deal with in an organization, but it seems like you've lived through a tremendous amount of change in your company, acquiring these companies and then getting them into your organization. How do you do that? How do you manage change like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to begin with the end in mind and know why you're going to change, and that the reason for that change is meaningful and has purpose. And it's in alignment with your personal purpose, your personally what you want to achieve, but also surely where the organization wants to achieve, that there's a meaningful purpose to that. And working with the team and getting buy-in for where you're going to change, where you're going. And then on top of that, why you're going to be successful and how you're going to be successful. So having a very defined answer to those questions that holds water, that makes sense, so that it makes sense to your investors, it makes sense to your employees, it makes sense to your customers or your suppliers or whatever the different stakeholders are. You have to be able to answer those questions in detail, and it has to make sense. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And why will we be successful? And then execute, in my experience, to a plan. Have a detailed plan, and it's just a checklist that we're going to get there. And if you have great buy-in to that, and you've trusted in your employees and empowered them to go out and do it, it'll happen. And so we've changed a lot. Our company's grown a lot. Throwing 2 or 3 acquisitions at the organization every year was always change. We were always changing. But we knew we were headed, and everybody bought into this change was needed and a really good thing.
Fascinating. So when you think about some of the successful people you know or that you've worked with, what characteristics do they share?
I would say some of the first thing would be vision and a dream. All really successful people and great leaders have vision and a dream. Some of those may not be great leaders and may be just misdirected, but at the beginning have to have vision and a dream, and be able to communicate that. Then what separates really what I would say a strong leader or a great leader that I've observed is this trust factor, that they trust their employees, they empower their people, they're good at delegating, and they're very good also at communicating what that vision is. And once again, communicating where we're going, how we're going to get there, and why we're going to be a success. Another element is empathy, to have empathy for people, for employees, and for situations. And then I do believe also just this service mentality. So that's what I've learned in my experience can make a great leader and can help lead to success, complemented by along the way with networking and having a mentor. The greatest leaders in the world still, I think, need to have they even need to have mentors, right? So just like the greatest sports champions of the world, they have coaches.
Still have coaches,
still have
absolutely,
coaches. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, great. And so are there any specific, a question that we have that came in about books or articles or other resources that you would recommend for others?
I would say, first just be a student of the market, be a student of whatever you're going to pursue.
Good suggestion.
Read industry publications, what's on the web, that's a general experience. In terms of business, one of the books that impacted me the most is a book by Patrick Lencioni called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it's written in a fable format, and it's kind of a story of this team, and you're reading through it, and you're like, but why is that person doing that, and why is this, and it's a dysfunctional team, but it teaches you how to be functional by looking at
what's gone wrong.
And so what I've done and our teams have done is we've used that kind of as a Bible, if you will, in terms of we don't want to look like that. And I'm a glass half full type person, so I've turned it into, okay, what are the 5 functions what are our 5 functions of a functioning team? And what are we going to look like? So we try to mirror that, and I've used that a lot. It was a really great book.
Can you talk about what those 5 functions are? Do you of what's of a good team?
Yeah, I'd say the foundation of really great teams is trust.
Okay.
Right, and there's trust, there's accountability, putting things out on the table, being transparent, having an environment where you can challenge each other, and conflict is a good thing, but it's done in a way that's constructive, and you can call each other out. If there's conflict on the team and it's personal or not constructive, the team, somebody's going to call you out on it. You're not acting appropriately. Get out when you can come back and act right in this team. Welcome back. So I'd say those are some of the key elements, and but the trust of the foundation of any relationship is trust. You and your husband, Stephanie and I, myself with my daughters. If you don't have that trust, your relationship's not going to go very far. Yeah. So that's really the key element at the beginning of that book is all about trust and getting an environment where you can have that trust.
Excellent. Okay, another question for you about diversity and inclusion. How do you foster that in your company?
Well, it starts at the top, at the beginning, right? I mean, we have good policies. We have to establish policies. We have a very, very good HR department now, human resources department, and with employees being our number one asset. HR, to me, is probably the most key function tied to the chief executive role. And even the finance people won't like this, and IT won't like this, but I think HR is the key function from a chief CEO role, because it gets back to culture, and then that leads to diversity and inclusion as part of that culture. And a few years ago, our company was a work in process with HR, and we probably invested most in the HR department and resources and systems and processes for that, and to set the bar of what does diversity and inclusion look like, and to try to have an appropriate work environment where that's alive and well.
Excellent. And what about managing conflict? Inevitably, you're going to have some of that, right, that you'll have to deal with. How do you go about resolving or managing conflict?
Well, once again, conflict's a good thing, and I think it should be encouraged that it can be a good thing, once again, if it's constructive. I try to make sure that when conflict happens, peer-to-peer resolution is the best way. Try to get it resolved. If two functions or two employees have conflict, try to get it resolved themselves. If not, then the boss or manager, whoever the manager, should get involved, and then ultimately I can be a tiebreaker, if you will. But you have to define what the conflict's about. What is the problem? Why is the conflict there? And is there a one or the other solution, or is there a compromise along the way? And sometimes, and this is a key part of the 5 dysfunctions of a team, you ultimately have to come to a decision and agree to it and agree to disagree, and then move on and commit to it. Commit to whatever that resolution is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, and we're kind of getting near the end of this, so I want to make sure I give you an opportunity to offer up advice to U of A students who are just starting their college careers or just getting ready to graduate. What advice would you give them?
A few different things that we've touched on today. First, I would say get involved. When you're in college, get involved here on campus. Join a club. Get in the Greek system, be involved with your faith, do sports, whatever it is, get involved, because you never know where those relationships will end up. If you're just starting a career and you're in your new organization, get involved with whatever activities they have. Immerse yourself. And so I would say that's the first thing, to just simply get involved, and then that leads to networking. Networking, I never understood or grasped how important it can be, but you just don't know what the relationships that you'll create can lead to, doors that will open, and do that in a way that's not about you. It's just making relations, and actually, if you approach in a way, what can I do to help you? And before you know it, it's like good karma, it comes back to you. So I think the networking is a big issue. Without a doubt, you've got to work hard. You probably not. The world's a very competitive place, so work hard, be responsible and accountable. No excuses. You got to own up to where you're at, and you're responsible for your own path. And you have to believe in yourself, and then also find people that believe in you. Really, really important, and then that leads probably to the most, my final biggest piece of advice, and that gets back to mentoring. We've talked about it. To seek a mentor, find a mentor, someone that can be your coach and a confidant, that you can really go open kimono with them in terms of where you're at, what you're struggling with. You want to do this career, and your parents want you to do that career. How do I approach that? Or I've got a bad boss. How do I deal with this? Or I don't even know what career I want to do. Or I don't know how I'm going to graduate. If you have the opportunity to find some people in life that can help you through that, and I would say actively seek it out, and I do hope here that the university is going to play a key role in that. I think faculty, bosses, people at the Alumni Association, I'm sure we have a lot of alumni that would would love to help students out and new graduates out. I know it happens every day.
Yeah. Yes, there are a tremendous number of dedicated faculty, advisors, mentors on campus. I would encourage students to seek them out. But I think your point about alumni who are willing to serve in that role is a really very good one. We do have an online mentoring platform that's called the Wildcat Career Network. We've talked a little bit about that. Yeah. And I would encourage anyone who simply is looking for a little bit of advice, ask a question, get an answer. Go to the Wildcat Career Network, and there's like 1,400 alumni who are registered, signed up, and have raised their hand and said, we want to answer your question. You know, and the mentoring, the one-on-one mentoring is something that we're very excited about. So we hope that we can get that launched soon. No, I'm not going to state a time frame here, but I know we need to set a deadline. And
well, I'm more than happy to be involved with that, and you know I have a passion for that.
I know you do, and we appreciate that. So what's next for you?
Well, I'm doing what I'm doing with Accella right now. We're involved with a new owner, a new company. We went from being privately held and private equity backed situation to now I'm leading Accella as a standalone company under Carlyle. It's a large publicly traded company, so that's a new, while I started my career with large public organizations, I was at the lower levels, and now I'm at an upper level in a large publicly held organization. So that's going to be a new learning curve for me, and continuing to do acquisitions, continuing to grow the business, and just trying to enjoy life and keep that work-life balance together.
Find time to come back to Tucson.
Great to be here.
I think you may have a daughter here, in fact, now in school.
We do.
So
we have a sophomore here.
We're glad we have another Wildcat in the family.
Yeah, awesome for that, and looking forward to seeing the Bruins game tonight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I want to thank you again. It's been really a wonderful hour. It's been great to be able to sit down and chat with you a little bit and get to know more about you and your background.
It's been fantastic to be here. I hope there was some light bulbs that went on with people through this discussion. I hope I was able to make some positive impact.
Well, and the good thing is that we have recorded it, and it's available on demand, so if there's anything they want to hear a second or a third or a fourth time, they can go back and watch it on the UA Alumni Association website. So thank you again, Andy. It's been great visiting with you. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much,
All right,
Melinda. Really
thanks.
been my honor. Thank you.
Bear down.
Bear down. Go Cats!